Tina. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a card to share with you that features some of the new Neat and Tangled November release products. This card features a really fun inlay die cutting technique, which I think you're really going to enjoy. I've used the new Star Cover Plate die from Neat and Tangled to create this background, along with a variety of pattern papers from a new paper set from Echo Park. So I'm taking the Star Cover Plate die and I'm running it through my Big Shot machine with a piece of white cardstock. This is going to be the outlines, so to speak, for the colored shapes that are going to be going inside to create our inlay die cutting. I'm using a metal adapter plate underneath my cutting plate to help give me a little bit more pressure because cover plates have a tendency to not cut as evenly without a shim. So if you don't have the metal adapter plate, go ahead and use a cardstock one that you've created from cardstock. Just layer up some pieces of cardstock until you have the thickness that you desire. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out all the negative pieces from that die. And now I'll go ahead and bring in some pattern papers. This is from the Echo Park Deck the Halls pattern paper set. I think the patterns are stunning. They're so pretty. So I'm going to take one of the patterns here and I'm going to cut this with the cover plate die. I'm just going to line this up, and again I have that shim in there to help me give a little bit more pressure to this cutting plate and help it cut through the paper. Once I've run that through, I'm going to go ahead and lift up the cover plate, and I kind of dropped it and knocked some of the pieces across my desk. But what I want to do is I want to collect all those little negative pieces and save them because we need those to be able to do our inlay die cutting. I'm also going to be using this pattern paper, which has a green pattern on the back side. I'm going to be using both this plaid and the green for my card. And here you can see that bin where I'm collecting all of these little negative pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just dump those in because we will need all those pieces to help create our card. Finally, I'm going to go ahead and die cut a piece of red paper. Again, all of these are from that Deck the Halls pattern paper set. Once I've run them through my Big Shot machine, I've attached the white cardstock outline that we had die cut, and I glued that down directly onto a white A2 sized card base. Now I'm taking all of the negative pieces, all those little colored squares, and I'm gluing them inside the negative portions of this cover plate. And that's going to create this beautiful inlay die cut pattern where we're going to be able to create some really beautiful background patterns and colors with these scraps of paper. So this is a really fun way to get some use out of your pattern papers to create some really fun backgrounds. You can glue these down onto your paper using any types of liquid adhesive that you prefer. I'm using some PPA matte adhesive because this is my favorite liquid glue, and I have it inside of a bottle that has a fine tip nozzle. I'll link to something in the video description that I use which is similar to the glue bottle that I have. The glue bottle I have is something I purchased at my local Michael's. It was in the section of the store where they have all the paper quilling supplies, so that's technically what this glue bottle was meant for. However, it works really well for letting my liquid glue be able to be stored inside of these bottles and have a nice fine nozzle tip. The best way to be able to do a background like this is to pick which shapes you want to be a certain color, because if you try to mix and match them and have them all sorts of different colors, it's going to look really, really busy. So by choosing different colors on each shape, so like the little triangles I've chosen is green, the hexagons are a mixture of red and that pretty blue pattern paper. Having those defined as those specific patterns helps this have a more organized feel, and it's not quite so busy and all over the place. So after I've covered that entire background, it took quite a while. I'm now taking the Merry and Bright die from Neat and Tangled. This is also a newer product for their November release. I've also taken the outline, and I die cut this script die from both some red cardstock and the green that I used for the pattern paper. So I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid glue to the back side of these, but first I'm going to go ahead and pop out the negative pieces from the die. I'm adding some liquid glue to the back side of these die cut pieces, and then I'll go ahead and glue them down onto the outline die cut, which will give this a bit of separation between the patterns, which will help keep the sentiment from getting lost. So after I've added the liquid glue to the back side of these die cut pieces, I attached them down onto the outline, and then I laid a clear block on top just to give it something heavy to add some pressure on top of those die cuts, which will allow them to bond onto the paper a little bit better. I'm also going to take that little ampersand and I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back side of this. I die cut this from some white cardstock. I didn't want this to be too distracting. I just kind of wanted it to be there but blend into the background. So I felt that die cutting it from some white would give me that effect. It would be there, but it wasn't going to distract from the rest of the sentiment. I also wanted to create a supporting sentiment, so I'm taking the Happy Holidays stamp set from Neat Tangled. This was released last year, but I love the simple font because it works well with any card. I'm inking that up in some Simon Says Stamp clear ink, and I'm going to stamp this down onto some black cardstock. I prepped the surface of the cardstock with a powder tool just to make sure I didn't have any little stray pieces of embossing powder stick to it, and then I'll go ahead and heat set this with my heat gun. The embossing powder I used was Ranger's Superfine White Embossing Powder, and the cardstock is from Simon Says Stamp. I then added a bit of foam tape to the back side of the Merry and Bright die cut, and I'm going to pop that up off of my card. I also popped up the little sentiment strip that we created from the black cardstock and attached that down underneath the words Merry and Bright. Now I'm going to take some sparkling clear sequins, and I'm going to lay those down in some glossy accents just to hold them down onto the card. Finally, I'm going to take a bit of baker's twine. This is some green and white baker's twine, and I just tied that into a nice little bow along the edge of the card fold, and that finished off this card. So I hope you've enjoyed and got some inspiration on using the new Neat Tangled November release. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and head on over to my blog where you can get more information on this card, including still pictures and products used, and I'll also have information on the Neat Tangled new release. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one you might like featuring the new Neat Tangled release. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can connect with me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as my blog. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon.